It is Saturday, which means only one thing. It is a race day. I'm just driving from Germany to Austria for the Walser trail. I'm sure I'm butchering that name up, but we stayed in Germany, so we actually stayed in Kempten because we had to be a bit closer to Munich for work during this week. But today I'm driving to Bad, B-A-A-D, Bad in Austria for a bad race. For a badass race, a 15k trail race with 1,000 meters of gain. So I actually drove down 3 days ago to do the course. So actually fairly technical, probably more technical than I expected it to be. Really, really beautiful, some incredible views. Pretty typical European race, go up and then go down, especially with the kind of shorter distances. But yeah, this one is probably not going to be as quick as some of the other ones because there's a lot of rocks and it's fairly technical, but should still be pretty fun, pretty competitive as well. Over the years, this has been like a fairly competitive race in this kind of Bavaria region. Obviously, I'm racing in Austria, but it's right on the border of Germany. So most of the runners, I'm assuming, will be from Germany there today. I think last year there was like 600 starters, and I think, yeah, this race sold out really quickly as well. I think I signed up to this race a long time ago. Because it showed like it was about to sell out. But yeah, anyway, should be a fun event. I have a nice 1 hour drive. So the race starts at 10 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock right now. 1 hour drive from Kempten to Bad, then do a quick warm up, and then get this race started. But at least I get to enjoy some nice driving views. This was the border, Germany and Austria. Not sure why I get so excited when I do cross borders, but I think it's pretty cool just driving from one place, doing a race in another country, and then driving back to another country. I mean, maybe it's because I'm from Australia and there's not too many borders, especially if you live in Perth. And probably the other reason is that 20 years ago, so when I was 18, I spent one night in jail for crossing a border illegally. So this was 19 years ago, 37, yeah. This was, 19 years ago. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, I was born in Ukraine and I left when I was 4 years old. But when I was 18, I went back with my dad to visit. So I was born in Odessa in Ukraine, and we spent like a whole week in Odessa. And then my mom's family is from Moldova. So I was planning to spend 1 week in Odessa and then go to Moldova for 1 week as well. So pretty much spent that week in Odessa with my dad, and then got on the bus to go to Moldova, which is probably like a 5-hour drive. Anyway, got on the bus and then got to the border after a few hours. They got everybody's passports. I had my Australian passport, and they pretty much said, no, you gotta come down. And then the bus leaves, I'm sitting there in this border, and this is different than obviously this border. Maybe today the borders are a bit different between Ukraine and Moldova, but 19 years ago, it was pretty much a border, no man's land for about a K, and then another border. So it's like, I was just sitting there, they go like, you don't really have a visa. So I had an invitation, but that invitation was only valid in the airport. So I could only enter the country through the airport. So they go like, you don't have a valid visa, you have to go back and then fly into Moldova. You can't just drive in, which I thought that was I thought that did not make any sense. So they kind of said like, sit down here, next car that comes back to Ukraine will take you back to Ukraine. So I was like, yeah, I might just walk there. So they were a bit surprised because there's that 1K of no man's land, and then again so this is on the Moldovan border, and they said like, you know, you can't just walk. But I just got my backpack. I had a big backpack, like one of those backpackers backpack, and I said, fuck it, I'm just gonna walk. So I started walking on the main road for about maybe 200 or 300 meters, cut into the bushes, and then ran into the country. kind of like walk and then ran in around the border guards. Nobody was really like chasing me at that time, but as I was going into Moldova, deeper into Moldova, I had a feeling that I was getting chased. So I was going, like, trying to stay away from the main roads. It was like a scene from like a rainbow movie, like trying to, you know, stay as low as possible, going in between the vineyards. There's a lot of vineyards there, and I'm just going under the vineyards, trying to stay. Anytime there's a car, I'm ducking in, like in the bushes and stuff like that. So I made it to the town, so the first town kind of on the Moldovan border. I was sitting to get a bus because I knew that obviously like like a car or a taxi. So I was like, the first car that comes through, I'm just going to give them some money to take me away from here. And then as I'm sitting there, like 4 or 5 army soldiers came and just grabbed me and put me in the back of their like truck. And then I was taken to the army base in Moldova, and I was I was like in this tiniest cell for 24 hours, which was, I mean, it's fun to think about it now. I'm actually like, it's weird even talking about it. It was a bit weird, like I didn't know what will happen. I knew it'll be okay because I had my Australian passport, but I did get told that if you cross the border illegally, no matter who you are, it's like 10 days in prison. But luckily, like, some of my family from Moldova came to the border trying to get me released because they found out, like, you know, I haven't made it with the bus. I was trying to figure out what was going on. Yeah, I also remember, like, when I was sitting in the office of one of those officers, he was asking me about why did I do it and all that. Seeing the soldiers having, like, those prickles on their shoes from, like, walking in bushes, the same prickles that I had in my shoes. So they pretty much chased me for about 20k, which, yeah, I mean, obviously I wasn't running back then. It wasn't like a run for 20k, it was more like hike. But yeah, it was a couple of good hours. I think I must have been there. Like, it probably would have taken like 5 or 6 hours of me like going through those little, well, it wasn't even villages, but like, you know, kind of like houses, because you have like some random houses here and there, going through those kind of areas, bushes, vineyards, till that bigger town. So pretty much they let me stay in Moldova for 3 days, but I had to go to court. I had to plead guilty. I had to pay a big fine, which was like $400 or $500, which 20 years ago in Moldova or Ukraine was a lot of money. But yeah, my parents still have like all my court documents that state the whole story. So I had to sit with this officer and tell him my whole story of like how I escaped, what I did, what I saw. Obviously this is 20 years ago, but like the paper itself is like a couple of pages long that they needed for the court. My parents have those copies, and they kind of show it every time they have like people come over. Like, my dad would take out that report and say like, oh, my son crossed the border illegally and he was getting chased by soldiers with dogs and stuff like that, and because it's all like there in that story. So yeah, maybe that's why I get so excited over borders, or a bit nervous, or yeah. Anyway, 9 minutes away from bad. See, the weather is actually warming up. It's 20 degrees, which is probably the warmest day we've had in Europe this summer. Should be a top of 30 degrees today, so it could be a hot one. Luckily my race is a bit short, but yeah. And I put the camera down because there was some police coming down. Vlad Excel, IXEL is the surname. Yeah, that's all.
Aus mit Stoffsäcken, den können Sie nachher holen. Deswegen haben Sie auch ein Kreuz daneben.
Alright, just doing a quick warm up. This is the first K&a-half, and then we start climbing towards that mountain and pretty much like go around the back of it at the top. Definitely humid today, which I guess probably a good thing. Most of the people that will be racing here probably more used to colder temperatures. But yeah, this come around here, start climbing this, and then come down. Anyway, I'm gonna finish this. That's a beautiful area. This is really, really cool. Yeah, I'm gonna finish this warm up, get some strides, get some drills in, and the race starts in 45 minutes. 5, 4, 3, All right, all done with the race. Got my alcohol sorted for today. How big is this? Can't even fit that in the camera. Yeah, that's a nice prize, but didn't have the best run, so finished third again. This is my third race in a row where I finished third. Was okay in the uphill, wasn't too bad on the downhill. I think first place was maybe like 90 seconds in front of me, second place about 40 or 50 seconds, but still, like, even like losing 7 seconds a K on a 6K downhill, you know, that was the difference between first and second, and 7 seconds a K is quite a lot. Like, you know, 8 seconds a K doesn't sound like that much, but obviously over 6K or 6.5K, it's quite a lot. So yeah, not the best race, but still managed to kind of hold on to third. I feel like my fitness is plateauing a little bit. So last year I came to Europe and I had a big base because the first race that I did last year was the World Champs. That was a 5-hour plus race. So I came into Europe with a big base because I did a lot of cycling, I did a lot of long runs. I was really strong, and as the season kind of continued with similar races, kind of similar 1.5 to 2.5 hour races, you know, I was just getting better and better and better because I was picking up more speed, more skill, and so on. Where this year I feel like I didn't put in that base work, or that base work wasn't long enough, and I was probably too focused on my VO2 max and speed. And yeah, I ran a 5K PB just before coming to Europe, so that means that my VO2 max was better than last year, but the base was smaller, and now it's starting to, well, not that it's starting to crack, but it's just starting to show that I'm not really improving, even though, you know, I've been out here for 8 weeks, and I feel like my fitness is really kind of leveled up. I haven't really improved, maybe got a little bit worse on the flats. It's a weird feeling because I feel like I should be going up faster. Downhills are okay, but I feel like I should be running faster uphill, and I'm just not. And it's not that, you know, I don't have the strength. I don't know. It's a weird kind of a feeling. And I'm gonna, I think now, so like I have another 5 weeks in Europe, might try and do a bit of cycling just to kind of build up that base. So on top of, you know, 7 to 9 hours of running a week while I'm here, I might also try and do 1 to 2 hours a week on the bike just to kind of rebuild some of that base that I probably should have been doing 3 or 4 months ago.
But yeah, anyway, also that story, I had that story about crossing the border for parts of that race. I probably should have mentioned in the story that the main reason I did cross the border was to see my granddad that I knew was getting old, and luckily I did get to see him, not for as long as I wanted, but I still had 3 days in Moldova, and that was the last time I saw him before he passed away. And I also knew when I was sitting in the border in Moldova, I knew if I stayed there a bit longer, gave them $200 as a bribe, they would let me through, which I probably should have done. But back then, being 18 and I guess thinking you know it all, and it's like, no, you're not going to tell me kind of what to do attitude that I had, meant that, you know, I ran for 20k. Hiked, ran for 20k, and then spent 24 hours, a bit longer in a holding cell, and only spent 3 days later on in Moldova. So that was a shame. If I could go back, I wouldn't do it. I would give them the bribe. That's how those things work in Eastern Europe, especially back then, probably still now. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this vlog. I did talk quite a lot, so hopefully I didn't bore you. But yeah, thanks for joining. Next week I'm in Cat Ultra, so in Austria as well. So I'll see you next week at the UTMB Cat Ultra. Have a nice day. Peace.